What is going on, everybody? Good morning and happy Monday. We have episode 5 coming at you live. I'm in Austin, Texas, and our guest is in Barcelona. If you joined us last week, we had an incredible creator, a creator who was the #2 female creator worldwide. Shout out to Melissa Grabner. And today, for this Money Mondays event for episode 5, we're flipping the table, going back to the brand side, and having the head of influencer marketing at Semrush join us. Of course, Money Mondays, it's an exclusive live event series where we interview creators asking how they're making money on LinkedIn, as well as brands about how they're spending money on LinkedIn. So let's have Nicole join us. Nicole, hello, how are you? Good morning.
Hi, AJ. Doing well, doing well. How are you doing?
I am good, and thank you so much. I know it's probably closer to the end of day right now in Barcelona, right?
It is. It's kind of crazy because it's winter-ish now. Well, getting closer to it, so the sun's actually coming down now. I'm not used to that, but yeah.
It's a little bit, I feel like, depressing when you finish work, you go outside and it's already pitch black.
Yes.
Over here in Austin, Texas, the day just started. It's 10 a.m. So we're just diving into the thick of things for
Nice.
Thanksgiving week, and really appreciate you being on the show. I know how crazy busy it is on your end, and I feel like you do so many live event series. I saw that you spoke with Sarah Adam from Wix, who we had on the show about 2 weeks ago. So you guys are
Yes.
friends, and we had to have you on the show as well, especially post Spotlight 2024.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to chat with you today with about everything, just not it will only influencer marketing, but really love what you guys are doing on your end. So I think
Thank
it's
you.
going to
And
be
it's
an
so cool that you
interesting
were
chat,
also in our private beta for our Chrome extension, which we'll also talk about
which
today.
I
So,
love.
which is awesome. Awesome to hear. So, for everybody who doesn't know who that is or isn't part of it yet, we'll share an access link in a bit. So, Nicole, I want to, obviously I've gotten a great chance to know you over the last few months, and obviously did a ton of research on you for this event today. But for those who maybe don't know who Nicole Ponce is and maybe don't know what Semrush is, tell us more about your role and the company that you work at.
Sure. So I lead the influencers team over at Semrush. What does that entail? Is we launch. I'm part of the brand awareness side campaigns. So we launch campaigns. We take care of collaborations with influencers, partnerships. We create either events or activations to also spread awareness about our brand. And for those that don't know what Semrush is, we are an all-in-one marketing toolkit. So we cover anything over SEO, content marketing, PPC, social media, data analytics, etc. All you can think of it. We also have 56 different apps. So I always love to say this: it's a blessing and a curse that we advertise to marketers. But it's a really, really interesting insight. Obviously, always working with marketers and getting their insights. And it's kind of like, what do I want if for myself as a marketer? So it's a great understanding of like having a better scope in terms of our campaigns and launching such campaigns in that aspect. And yeah, that's a little bit about me. Fun fact, I was actually the first person that was hired to do influencer marketing at Semrush. So we've kind of built a lot of different infrastructures in between then. So it's been an interesting ride seeing the whole company change pre-IPO, post-IPO, being part of that, how that kind of affected our marketing campaigns, influencer marketing partnerships, et cetera, the different directions. So that's been a really interesting ride as well.
And we already have some super fans in the audience. I'm going to pull up. So we have Favor saying how much he loves Semrush. We have
Oh,
Ashleen saying that you are the queen of influencer marketing. And I also agree, especially on the B2B side. If I think of kind of like the Mount Rushmore of those main people that even for us at Creator Match, we think of to get inspiration from, it truly is you and the team at Semrush and things like the
oh, thank you.
Influencer Weekend, Spotlight 2024, which we'll talk about today. We have Tyler, who always joins. Shout out to Tyler for Money Mondays, as well as Bree here talking about how Semrush makes the best memes. You,
Oh,
team, are
we
crushing.
love you guys too.
And I agree where what you said is so interesting, where it's a blessing and a curse because you are marketing to marketers, which is
hmm
probably the hardest thing to do because all of your normal tactics that you would, let's say, try to market to an end customer don't know what this is, but you have to really think beyond your game, which obviously you guys are, and I'm so excited to dive into those tactics.
Yeah.
And then something else for the folks listening, if you don't know me, my name is AJ. I'm the founder and CEO of Creator Match, a company where we match brands with LinkedIn creators. You can see some of the brand partners that we have here on the agency side. I mean, we've done hundreds of sponsored posts to date on LinkedIn specifically. So B2B is just the nature of the game that we're in, and we're interviewing such an expert today. So Nicole, there's so much I want to cover today. I would love to just, I usually do a longer intro. I want to just dive in, and for the entire audience, throw any questions, comments, reactions, and I'll do things like pull up, for instance, Favors message here, Ashleen, etc. So the first question I want to ask you, Nicole, is that you've posted that traditional B2B is very boring, especially in the marketing side. I completely agree. But why do you think it's boring? I guess to just kick it off.
I have so much to say about this, but I think the main aspect of why I think it's boring is because, and maybe boring is not the right word. Maybe it's just not as impactful and long lasting in the people that are consuming it. So SEO is not, and what I quote sometimes people say, that it's not a fun or slash sexy thing to talk about. And of course, we offer more things outside of SEO, but we've been able to create like one of the guests was saying, like different memes and create different aspects that are outside of the traditional marketing sense, just when people talk B2B, to make it more relatable, make it more entertaining, making it more longer impacting, and yeah, in that different aspect. So I think traditionally it's just, it feels like nothing, we're not using all our senses when we're creating campaigns in B2B from all type of different companies. And I think that's such a missed category. And I say this all the time in terms of we create a lot of different tactics from B2C and B2B, because at the end of the day, we're still marketing people. We're still trying to connect with them in an emotional level. If that being is something that's educational, entertainment, way more, we want to make sure that they also feel relatable. Like if you guys see our memes, as Rian was saying, is we're relating to other marketers, and that's the way that we can show that type of impact. So to answer your question is, I don't see a lot of companies and actually using all their senses or getting creative outside of just using traditional marketing. And just because you're trying to sell something that's a product doesn't mean that you can't use those different aspects as well. I can name other companies that are doing it great too, like Hootsuite.
Mhm.
Absolutely love their last campaign. And a couple other companies are doing fun stuff as well. So yeah, that's would be my short answer, long answer.
And I totally agree. And I think also just how Semrush has marketed itself. Again, it has to be so unique because you are selling to marketers. And even for doing research, and I love to just get a general idea of the company. And I go to their LinkedIn profile, like the company LinkedIn profile, because it gives a really good general overview of what the company does without going to the website. And I wrote the tagline down, and it says, your competitor's favorite marketing platform used by 10 million marketers, right? And I mean, love that. And that goes into what Ashleen said about, or even Bree said about the memes and the different side of how you have to market the company. And I totally agree that traditional B2B is the webinar, the email lead magnets,
Right.
white papers. There's no color, there's no excitement, there's no creativity. It's just very boring. And I feel like it's the same recycled playbook that these brands have been using for decades now. But the irony, like you said, is that you're still marketing to people. The only difference is they're buying for their company, not for
Mm-hmm.
themselves. And
Mm-hmm.
there's so much that you can take away from B to C that you can then use for B2B. And you can see Tyler here says, the relatability aspect of SEMrush is so important. Or even, you can take, and what we do a lot at Creator Match with our brand partners is, can you take a series or format idea that you've seen on like TikTok, let's say, like man on the street
Mm-hmm.
interviews, and use that at a traditional B2B conference, let's say at HubSpot Inbound, right? It's the same thing. Or even if you've seen that format where it's the Polaroid, where, I say, hey, Nicole, if I hand you this Polaroid and you take pictures, can I make a cool video out of it? And traditionally it's
Mm-hmm.
been, the format, you do it at an airport, give it to someone, they go travel to Argentina, and it's a really cool travel lifestyle video. But what if you did that at a conference and it's some really cool videos or pictures from that type of event? So I agree that it's boring. You said you get your inspiration from other brands. And what are some of those tangible things that you've taken from B2C to actually activate on the B2B side at SEMrush?
My biggest thing, I guess, connected to influencer marketing would be the influencer weekend that we just did in June. And that kind of came from an idea because I love those pictures. Actually, Ashleen was there. So if she's still here, she can actually put herself out. But my idea with not just this, but just getting a hold of a lot of brands is, I work with creators. So I've always thought about, like, there's a lot of great activations for influencers that are, for example, in beauty and travel. They can go to actual places or they get gifted a couple of things. But for creators in the marketing space, I hadn't seen anything as a big activation like this to kind of cater a space for them to kind of connect together. So it just kind of was like, how do we shift that and create something like that? Because why does L'Oreal get to do it? Why does Revlon get to do it? Why do all these B2C brands get to do it? Like, why can't we do that as well? Create a space, make it branded, have some actual tasks for them to create content around, not specifically about Semrush, but something that will be also valuable for their audience as well, and showcase the world like, hey, Semrush can really be everywhere at once. And yeah, that's kind of this how this idea came through. But I would say just mostly creating activations that people. Oh, she's so cute. It's just an idea of how can we make these type of activations to cater to the community so it could come back to us as well. Because I think B2B influencer marketing, it's just starting. And I think AJ, you might think the same thing,
Mhm.
but we're not creating a huge noise just yet. So just thinking of little ideas and other brands I've seen as well that do this as in that aspect. For example, bringing some ideas from TikTok with the big newspaper. Not mentioned who did that, but I'm sure everyone here has seen it on on LinkedIn as well already. But it's just getting the creativity from other brands and just recreating it because people are still engaging with that type of entertainment content. So that's kind of like where my thought process comes in. And also is as in our space, it's just kind of becoming innovative. So if we get stuck in a place like, why, how can I make something that is not entertaining? So get out of that space and kind of see what's around you that kind of attains your attention and say, how can I recreate this in this boarding format? Or how can I recreate this into the same audience that I'm trying to entertain or attain their attention, etc. So that's kind of like where my brainstorm slash ideas come from in the B2C tactic. And every time I consume some sort of content and I think of like, oh, this would be cool, or like, oh, this caught my attention, how can I recreate this? But I think anybody that is social first actually thinks that way. But of course, since I have to put into my work, so that's kind of like I have my idea pillars. So that's kind of how these ideas come into play. And of course, thinking fast forward, like what will influencer marketing look like in the next year or so? So what tactics can I think about now that will kind of set us to the point that we need in the next 6 months or so? So being proactive and active, and in that aspect in terms of seeing what other brands are doing and what's repeating and what's working well for them.
And I think a great acronym that kind of combines both sides of education and entertainment is edutainment. And you can't
Mm-hmm.
do one or the other these days. I think you have to evoke
Yeah.
emotion, excitement, get some insight. And you can see even today, like we're showing a lot of graphics, colors to get people entertained, but also have the education side, which is why kind of you're here and offering all that insight, which makes a ton of sense for other brands. So I guess the first point, if I'm a brand marketer in the crowd listening, do you recommend that I should be consuming content on other platforms outside of the traditional B2B channels like the LinkedIns of the world to get inspiration and content ideas from? Is that how Nicole and the marketing team at Semrush get those ideas?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And obviously cross-check. And even so, for example, if you're on TikTok getting ideas from TikTok and different brands, you can recreate that and create that into videos on LinkedIn, or
Mm.
vice versa, YouTube Shorts, etc. But I would 100%. Even sometimes, and we actually did a collab, or we tested an education, well, not educational, entertainment collaborations on Instagram. So one of my goals was to expand brand awareness outside of the SEO space and work with influencers that are just more lifestyle slash entertainment. Because again, our audience is entertained by other accounts that are not just educational content. And one of our collaboration posts landed like 3.1 million impressions, and it was completely organic. I'm sure you've heard of him. It was Rama.
Mhm.
Okay, so we did a collaboration with him, and he's very funny and talks about like different things, but we made it in a way that he was talking about our tagline of one of our campaigns, that's make it with Semrush. So he talked
Mm.
about how he found career success doing his videos, etc., blah blah blah. And at the end he used make it with Semrush. Obviously we didn't attain a huge point of audience of like our future customers, but we did landed our view of our account for 3 million people. That's
which is
incredible.
which is
So
insane. Which is
right,
insane.
organically. We didn't boost it. We didn't find a need. We just wanted to test something. We did a couple of those that way, but it's just about testing, seeing where people are at, maybe, testing other things that are different outside of what you do, just to get your brand outside as well. But yeah, long story short, I would say yes, absolutely.
And I think so for a great takeaway, as we kick off today's event, is you don't have to always reinvent the wheel. You don't have to create something
No.
new, right? Like influencer weekends are not new. They're very new
Hmm.
in the world because people thought it was so different. Like B2C will never overlap with B2B. And it's so different. You're selling to brands. It's like, no, you're still selling to people. And like you said, I've seen so many of those makeup companies like the L'Oreal's do these types of influencer trips, influencer weekends, but B2B has not seen it. So why not pull something over, get that
Exactly.
inspiration and make it unique to both, the channel, which is B2B, and also the company, which is Semrush. And I want to dive into that influencer weekend before we talk about your conference Spotlight 2024, which is majority of today, and creating that FOMO. But if we dive in, I'm going to use our Creator Match Chrome extension. You can see, funny enough, your most common posting words, without without a doubt, is Semrush. And you can see some of the hashtags that you use here. But if I go into your post and type in influencer weekend, I just want to pull this up for a second because, when I was doing research on you and the company, this was fascinating. And I can see here that, just some of these pictures, right? So you had this incredible picnic that I actually have seen this for engagement parties, birthday parties at the beach, on a grass area, and you brought it into B2B, which is fascinating. And then as we dive through here, here's that picture with you in the fan. A beautiful kind of layout, something very picturesque, very Instagrammable, but obviously for other channels.
Yes.
This beautiful picnic. It seemed like some sightseeing. Everyone's wearing their merch in public. But I want to talk about this. So tell me more about these cards, where that idea came from, what these are for, and how it impacted the end result of this trip.
Yeah, so of course I wanted to just have this huge glamorous weekend, and we were like, okay, but we need to make sure that we measure something at least, right? Not at least, of course, our top idea of how can we make sure that the investment of the campaign was something that a return of investment for us. So the goal of the campaign was to invite 10 to 12 influencers and spend a whole weekend together, and we would pay everything for them, the accommodation, the whole weekend activations. They were complementary influencers, meaning that some had expertise in one thing and the others didn't have another. Yeah, we had a great experience the whole weekend, but I didn't want to make it pushy in the sense of we need to create content about SEMrush. Or I also think like whenever we do a collaboration with influencers, it's not like make it super SEMrushy, but make it like your tone of voice, make sure the CTA is involved, etc. But it's more about community building. So the
Mm.
goal of this was to create a contest. We created a competition, and we had 2 hours in the middle of London, and they each were paired up with 2 to 3 people, and they had different cards of how to create content, and they had to post it on their channels, on LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, etc. Videos by themselves. If you go back, you can see Ashleen's actually recording somebody. I think
Oh,
in
you're
one of
saying
those.
this
Go.
one?
No, but before, yeah, people were on the street recording. Oh,
Mm.
it was there, and they're asking questions to one another. They're sharing your educational values. So either way, the cards, the prompts were content that they would create already without us being involved, but
Mm.
SEMrush was involved in there. So if there was a point, there was a specific points for video, specific points for written content, specific points for just a repost, etc. And then we added up the point values, and then whoever created the X number of post received a check of $5,000 to their favorite charity in the end, which Balaji was the one that won. Yeah.
And you
So we
and you
wanted to make it
gamified and made it a competition, you
exactly.
gave money, and it's
Yes.
the
Yes.
whole idea, even just like having that merch in public, and it's not, we'll talk about swag and merch in a few
Yeah.
minutes, but it wasn't your boring swag. If I go back here, so like that hat, you can tell that hat is
Hmm.
exciting. It doesn't even have the Semrush letters on it, it has the logo on it, right? Or if you see people in public here, like these tote bags, they look fun, and you
Hmm.
actually would take them out, not just for this trip.
Yeah.
So what was the biggest learning? Again, you had these kind of playing cards, you had a competition, you had this weekend, all expenses paid. I'm sure it wasn't a cheap trip, but I saw this all over social, and I know that we talk about FOMO today. I had FOMO. I was like, I wanted to be there as a creator, and I'm sure marketers really wanted to dive in deeper. So, what were the key learnings? I guess like what worked super well, and maybe what was something that you would take away for the next time you do this, if you do it again, that you do differently?
Worked well, which I think is a key factor to focus on. Make sure that you think of everything at once. So we had different activities per each day, but maybe I overdid it with too many activities because I think
Mm,
everybody was too tired at the end. But we thought about pretty much every idea, meaning that everything was social first. Even the dinner areas were super social first. The picnics, so make sure that everybody created content about their experience. So it's just creating every step of the way something that people are incentivized to talk about it just because the experience feels and also looks Instagrammable for like, oh shit, I actually really like this.
mm,
And also, great takeaway is that pairing people in the group for the competition was a great idea, just because everybody, even you assume that they're great at X number of creating content, maybe they're not good on the fly in terms of recording themselves. So I loved, actually, we pair people in groups. So somebody was recording, another person was asking questions, somebody had another idea. It was kind of like seeing everybody brainstorm and on site, which was great. Another really great key takeaway is those are, I would say, my top two. And my, no, actually, my top three, and this was, I think, what I've seen the results overall, is that having different influencers from different specific areas of expertise come together. So
mm,
sometimes we see that we come together with just all social media managers, all like community managers, etc. But I think it was more beneficial to have different areas of expertise because people were that left have actually created also their own kind of learning curves, or they were able to talk to people that they needed to talk to in order to increase their next level. For example, maybe somebody was really good at LinkedIn and somebody else was really good at video creation, so they kind of were, we created a space for them to kind of connect. And when we think about creators, and this is what I think about my end, it's like, what else can we offer them outside of just a great experience, like a great networking opportunity, a great next level educational opportunity. So it's not just, hey, come to have fun with us and have a dinner. They go to this all the time, at least most of them.
mm,
So what else in terms of tangible value that they don't have it attainable to themselves, which I'm sure they could have, but we just put it all in one in 2 days, like in a box, and just gave it to them. So I think that's my three biggest key takeaways. And yeah, in terms of what didn't work well or what I would do differently, I think maybe the competition I would structure it maybe differently. I'm not
mm.
sure how, but just to test something differently in terms of how the content we pushed out afterwards,
Sure.
and maybe give more details of like, oh, it could be posted longer, not just like it would be rushed and pushed, because I understand that the value of the content that has to go in their channels is very valuable. And yeah, I would say that that's the only thing that I would say that I would change differently. And I'm so happy that it was sunny in London, because that was like my biggest fear. I don't know what happened that
I thought that
day,
was
but
Photoshop for a second. I said it
yeah,
was way too sunny
no,
for London.
everybody from the weekend was actually based in London. They're like, this is not our usual weather. And I'm
Mm.
like, thank whatever is up there, because I swear, I was like, we have a picnic outside. Okay, let's make sure that everything happens well. But yeah, those are my key learnings.
I love it. Everything you said, I totally agree with. Two things I wanted to point out. When you said think social first, can you define that? What does that mean to you, and what other marketers, even creators, can think about when you say think social first?
When I think of social, when I think of, say, I think social first
Mhm.
is making and this is, I think, a problem that most, if not all, people that create an actual live experience struggle with showcasing in terms of tracking success, because you want to make sure that you're creating the area, a physical area that will look attractive online, or that it will look as entertaining or as attractive that people want to take pictures of it, incentivize it, that they want to talk about it online. So that's what I think about social first. Like, can this be attributed to something that will be talked about on social? Would this be in, is this a great area for people to create content around? Is this like visually, does it look appealing enough for it to be something, a good background or a great way to create content around? So that's what I think about think social first, or incentivize other people, it being um, different events and we can talk a lot about it, about Spotlight, but actually giving you quotes and what to do around, like take a picture here or do something here. So that is a great idea, just a way people can already take videos around it, and you don't have to think much, but you're just, oh, this is cool. I'll record myself around here. And that's what I think about Think Social First in terms of live experiences.
Amazing. And you kind of are wanting to take us, and I agree, let's kind of segue into Spotlight 2024. So for those who don't know, and I'm flashing a picture here, and it was, I mean, I will confidently, and I know it might, it might be biased that I'm saying this, but I had FOMO for not flying to Amsterdam for this conference, even not even speaking, just attending. I mean, from what you posted to what the creators posted, the speakers, just everything around this event, it didn't feel like your typical corporate B2B event. I think that was probably one of the focuses was, let's make this fun, exciting, sexy, cool, social first. So for those who don't know, what was Spotlight 2024? How many people attended? Who was it focused at? And then we'll dive deeper into the activations and how you partner with creators.
Yeah, wow. This is like such a, for those that don't know, we actually started this project 6 months before we launched it, which is insane. But we love doing crazy things at Semrush. It's just our personalities. So that's just, yeah, that's us. But Spotlight is, and it was basically a conference. It was our first conference, and we wanted to make sure that we were marketing marketers as a whole. But obviously very focused on social media and also SEO, digital marketing topics, etc. We wanted to make sure we gave a lot of value. So we expected around 500 marketers to join us from in-house, agency, decision makers, which are CMOs, directors, etc., heads of marketing. And we had around 1,000, which is incredible. It was like double what we expected to attend, which is a great turnout, of course, at least for our first conference. And for those that have experience or don't have experience with conferences, but building a brand from scratch and make sure that people are actually there, like foot traffic wise, it's an interesting challenge, because one thing is online and digital, and another thing is physically, especially now that we're still trying to get it in the groove of like post COVID, but even though that's far from that, but just make sure that, I think people are competing in terms of value of like what sets you apart, of why does I need to actually be present there. So we wanted to portray as much as we could in order to give the value that it's a place that you should be there at. And I'm so happy to hear that you had FOMO, because honestly, if I would have not worked at Semrush, I also would have had FOMO. So it means we're doing a good job. So I appreciate that.
And speaking of FOMO specifically, I mean, these are just some fun, unique event activations that I pulled. So, and correct me if I'm wrong. So top left, it looked like it was like it looks like the silent disco
Yeah,
but with yoga breathing, I'm assuming.
yeah, it was a silent, well, it's not silent. It's actually a yoga class. So we
Okay.
started the day with yoga class. Then we had, I'll just go through it
Yeah,
basically.
yeah,
We
please.
had we had a duck pit up, whatever, and then you can jump in and you had to find your own duck so you can take it with you. We had a tattoos parlor bar at per se. Obviously we had a photo booth, and then my favorite, bottom left, is a bunch of our memes. So it's actually the memes that we've created at Semrush. So we just put them
Mhm.
all up in different areas. We showcase like our best memes. We had an idea like a very long time ago that we wanted to create. Yeah, we wanted to create a meme museum. So it's basically like a short version of that we created a meme museum of all the memes that we've created throughout the years, which is awesome. So as you can see, like this is a big thing. Like we wanted to make sure that we wanted to create areas that connected with marketing, but also that you could have fun, you can get entertained, that you automatically like, oh, have fun. I'm part of the experience. I'm not just here attending it. So this kind of leaves you like like a long lasting impact of the connection with the brand. And yeah, that was our goal basically. And of course, we're understanding that we're hitting every possible personality at points. So we tried to do at least a little bit of something for everybody.
And what's so interesting, Nicole, is that you didn't just do cool activations. Like, you know, thinking about a typical party or event outside of just even just in the business world or even the consumer world, but just like something friend to friend where you can get a customized hat or
Yes.
stickers or cotton candy maker, whatever it is. But you took that as inspiration and then said, how could I tie it to marketers? And then how could I tie it to Semrush? So it wasn't just let's do a cool meme
Mhm.
activation. It wasn't just random memes, but it was memes that Semrush made, and then a meme museum. And I think the caption here is a memorable instead of memorable marketing.
Mhm.
Or the
Yeah.
ball pit, don't duck up your marketing. And not just that, but you have to dive in and actually find this duck. I mean, it's just
Mhm.
so interesting. And it goes to the same thread that you said earlier. Think social first in anything that you do. And I can tell you right now, if I'm at this event, you don't even have to pay me. I'd put this all over my socials, not just on LinkedIn, on Instagram, everywhere, because it's so unique. It's so interesting. It creates that FOMO. So, from a brainstorming standpoint, how did you come up with these creative ideas? I mean, I've never seen a conference take it to this level of fun and exciting. And the funny thing is, it goes back down. This is B2B, but you're making it fun.
Yeah. I'm not going to take credit for this because our team took care of this part. But we do have a creative brainstorm agency team and time inside our team. So we do talk about like different activations, what will incentivize not only connection, like the duck thing is a big European thing to have like duck shops. So it kind of also connects with like the European market. They have like our own different type of duck. So it was a Semrush duck. So we have long brainstorming activations. Our VP is also very creative. Our event manager that joined us that had dealt with all the production of this end as well. So I would say that our team at Semrush is just very creative, and we just go back and forth with all the ideas. There's actually a funny story that I'll mention. One of our team members, we were after the event, we are just taking care of the of unboxing everything pretty much and putting everything back. And then people were thinking ideas already like, what if we do not a live pony that has to be Semrush branded? Or like, we're like, okay, guys, we're all sleep deprived. We need to go to sleep. But I think we just are creatively always excited to see what we can do. And we all work well together in terms of brainstorming. So I would say, in terms of creativity, brainstorming sessions with your team and having a good connection with your team in order to make sure that you feel like you have a space to go back and forth of ideas, and then that's how kind of like a good idea comes out, and it doesn't have to be alone. Oh, you're muted.
Did we get a live leak that there'll be a branded pony in 2025?
No, 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 there won't.
You heard it here first. You heard it here first.
No, I don't
That
think
would be
so.
very viral. That is social first.
Yeah.
I love it. Bree's saying that we should have a petition to have adoptable
Oh,
dogs
I
at the
love
event,
that.
which could be super exciting. And I didn't know what you said about ducks being very European, but again, leaning into like the location of the event,
Yes.
tying everything in makes a ton of sense. So I love it. The next thing I want to dive into is the creator side of this. So we spoke a lot about the viral, the social first, and that's with no people involved. That's just the physical event. But let's
Hmm.
dive into the creators that really helped the FOMO increase and get spread out across different platforms. So two of the notable creators that are massive on LinkedIn, we have Jay on the left, 274,000 followers, Laura on the right, 208,000 followers in the personal branding marketing niche, and you have their profiles on top, and then on the bottom, those are actually images from the event. So correct me if I'm wrong, Nicole, but I think Jay led a mastermind in the bottom left, and then the bottom right, I think Laura did as well, but that's kind of her on the event floor, kind of talking
Yes.
to attendees. So what role did creators play in Spotlight 2024 to make it a success and to really drive that FOMO?
Honestly, a huge part. My goal was I took care of the lineup for the conference. So my goal was basically to look for speakers, for influencers that will also have speaking experience and talk about a specific topic. But of course, we had a very broad niche of different topics that we needed to cover, because of course we market to a lot of different marketers. So we want to make sure that we give as much value as possible, depending on the different niche of audience that we were talking about. But obviously, with me and in focusing in influencer marketing, we understand that we're our first conference. It's our first conference. We have zero brand awareness in terms of just the conference itself. We need to make sure that we share a lot of value, and speakers are a big deal for this aspect to showcase the how much impact in terms of value that they can offer and why I need to be there.
Mm.
So my focus here was to make sure that we invite speakers that have a lot of value to share, but also a lot of influence so they can bring their audience to join us as well. So we're
Mm,
basically catering a whole place for everyone to come meet their favorite slash top creators and thought leaders online, but in person,
mm,
and learn from them first in face to face. And a lot of different things that I now think about in terms of brands that we chose. For example, for the main lineup, we had Duolingo, we had Surreal,
mm,
we had Sophie Muller, which is really great. Alfred Samba, we used to work at Gymshark. So our focus for the main stage was to make sure that we had actionable long-term keynotes that
mm,
talked about how to fix a problem, and that helped us leverage like the goal in terms of big audience impact. But the masterminds, for example, a one-to-one with these type of master classes, and Deandra actually did one herself. They're so valuable, and I think a one-to-one cost of just having this one-to-one with them would probably be 3 times the cost of what it would be to be of a ticket cost.
sure.
So that was like a big also in return of investment topic with anybody that is attending. But in terms of following and impact online, just them talking about, and I noticed even like two different things. When people started talking about the conference itself, it was great, and we invited some influencers for free,
Mm,
and they were able to talk about it as well. So that increased number of mentions of attendees. And then those that we invited to speak started talking about their experience, what they're going to give, what they're going to give. And then it just kind of at closer to the conference, it showed that mostly everyone that had some great influence and knows a specific expertise topic was
mm,
also attending. So not only did we have an audience FOMO, but then we had an expert FOMO. So some experts reached out to me like, hey, is there any space for me too? So it's just kind of like that. If these, we're creating a space of where these all thought leaders are going to be spending at and sharing knowledge, not only for them to connect with one another in person, but also to share connection and also to their audience directly in person. It was like the perfect place to be. And also creating that community feel, not just for the speakers slash influencers slash creators, but
mm.
also for the audience and slash attendees. So that's kind of like my how my thought process went through. And yeah, the results basically showed it. Everybody posted, people are still talking about Spotlight. And to me, my biggest takeaway is just they all kind of, since I speak to a lot of people individually and I kind of know where the overlaps are, it's so great to see them together. So sometimes when I'm in a place, I'm like, you talk about this and you whatever, you guys should kind of get together and talk. And I've seen so many connections happen after these big events that we've created, because of this, because we all kind of work with the same like minded people. And I love that we're kind of pioneering a kind of a community in the digital marketing slash creator space in B2B, which is nice to see it develop.
And they're always going to remember that they met at Semrush. They met at, Spotlight 2024, whatever it is. And it's interesting that you didn't just invite the speakers to post. You invited the influencers who are not even speaking to just be there, maybe for an exchange for a free conference pass, right? To
Yes.
not miss it, the FOMO, or even the experts who are going to talk about this, which is so exciting. And you mentioned some of the content that came out from this event. I want to pull up Laura as an example here. And I was looking through some of her posts using, again, our Creator Match Chrome extension. I'm going to type in Spotlight, and you can see here, I'm going to hide repost for a second. Actually, I'll do Semrush. And you can see some of the posts here. Semrush invited me to speak in Amsterdam, talking about the story of her 20-year-old self, would be so proud, etc. And then, a picture on the event floor, and you could see how, well it did from an engagement standpoint, or how she sold out 2 master classes in Amsterdam from the conference. There was such good quality content that came from this. And I think what you said is a lot of these creators or influencers charge on the low end $1,000 per hour for a one-on-one. So why
Yeah.
not, spend around that or a little bit less to not only get that one-on-one or that group time in those mastermind kind of roundtable discussions, but also you
Hmm.
get access to, the ball pit or the foam pit with the ducks, and you get the meme museum, and you get all these different activations, and you get to meet people. So I think it was so smart. The next
Hmm.
thing, as we dive into merch and swag, so there was a lot of social and content around the merch, even from the influencer weekend. How does your
Hmm.
team think about this? Because I feel like, again, especially, and I don't want to hit B2B too hard, but traditional merch and swag ends up in the garbage after the event. You think it's super cool. You grab, a branded pen, or you grab a branded water bottle, and you realize that it's a $5 water bottle that cost pennies to make, and you're never going to have this on your desk, and it's a waste. So how does Semrush, and how do you advise other brands to think about the gifting side of these events, and even if it's not part of a conference, but just merch and swag?
That's such a great question. Um, I have to think about this one, honestly. But I would say top level of, at least for the influencer weekend, the way that I thought about the swag was what would be things that people will use long term wise that's useful for them every day. So, for example, a tote bag. We also had fanny packs and water bottles. We don't do a lot of, I don't want to say uses because it's not the right word, but things that will be thrown away that people will probably not use it in their everyday consumption, I would say. But the things that we do create, for example, our water bottles, great quality. I use all of them. So we focus more on quality and not quantity to make sure that that's something that people will actually take care of and actually use for long term wise. And for the influencer weekend, and also obviously this for the tote bag for Spotlight was completely different, but people could actually have something that they could put stuff in. So functionality first,
Mm.
and not like, don't think big, think one thing that will actually be useful and that could be useful for a really long time and that could be used everywhere. So your brand is pretty much everywhere. Like a t-shirt that's not flattering, probably not. The t-shirts that we have on our swag store are actually baggy, like big fitted. They're super comfortable. The quality is incredible. Same thing. I mentioned our water bottles a bunch of times. And yeah, I go back to Influencer Week and I haven't finished that train of thought. Sorry. But the swag that we gave away was also for it to look visually great in pictures. So we had one of the activations that we did was for a photo shoot, and it just was an active way for people to just casually wear something that looked nice, but also incentivize brand awareness in every image. But yeah, I wouldn't say that it's something yeah, I'm not saying that it's something that's not needed. It definitely is, but I would always think quality first before quantity and think of what will there be something. For example, this is actually something, it's kind of like a Stanley bottle that we recreated, but it's a Semrush, it's Semrush branded.
I love it.
And it's great quality. So I know I'm going to use this all the time. So I'm not saying Stanley is a bad brand, but potentially this
What
is
does
good.
the white writing say? Can you put it closer to
It
the camera?
says one third low hanging fruit keywords, one third juicy backlinks, and one third organic traffic.
I love it. So even that, you can
Something.
see how quality that is versus a very
Yeah.
cheap $1 plastic bottle that will get thrown away after the conference. And what's crazy is, let's say that you were a creator instead of on the brand side, and you're drinking a cup right now on another event series, not part of
Hmm.
SEMrush. You just gave SEMrush that free promo. So think, like
Exactly.
you said, in the quality first, not quantity. And is it, are people going to throw it out? Or are they going to use it? And then also,
Hmm.
you didn't say this exactly, but I think this is the same theme. Think social first when it comes to swag
Hmm.
and merch. And don't just get, again, that cheapest low quality tee, but follow the trends on merch right now, which baggy is kind of is very in right now,
Yeah.
and then use that for branding. So I love all that. And also on the topic of branding, you guys even had branded food, which is insane. I think you
Yeah.
burger buns.
They were burger buns. Yeah. I'm so
Amazing.
sad I didn't get to try one, but I heard they were fabulous.
And it's again
Yeah.
thinking social first, right? Having that stamp of your logo, so that
Hmm.
when I'm eating a burger and my friend who's a creator is taking a picture of me at the event, that's just more social, which is incredible. So
Yeah.
as we kind of wrap up today, I really want to dive into, okay, I'm in the crowd right now listening to Nicole just drop these gems around everything around B2B influencer marketing. Um, what are some things that I could take away? So let's start in a couple categories. So on the creator or influencer side, if I want to partner with more brands like the SEMrushes of the world and kind of want to meet more Nicoles, what could I do to get on your radar? What could I do to either get invited to speak? What could I do to get a free conference pass to come and create content? What could I do to become an expert in the space? What could I do on the creator and influencer side?
I love this question so much because I had such a struggle when I was looking for speakers because LinkedIn is such a great place to find experts when they talk about the content that they're experts at. But sometimes some experts don't do a really great job showcasing that they're also speakers. And if they are good speakers, what they can talk about and how they can present in terms of presentation skills, which are two different things. So if you're a creator and you want to get yourself out there more, create a speaker profile, add it to your LinkedIn, or even just a short bio like, I talk about X, Y, and Z topics, invite me to your conferences, et cetera, et cetera. I think that's such a necessary thing to do. um, and yeah, that would be like honestly my biggest advice. And also posting about previous the conferences or webinars that you've been at. So I go on a deep dive. I go on YouTube, look for webinars, look for also podcasts to understand their tone of voice, if they know how to articulate their thoughts, etc. If it's a great match in terms of like the style that we're looking for the content, blah 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 blah. So everything out there is visible for others, but kind of pack it together in a place so people can easily just say, hey, I want you to come and join us. Sometimes the people that are the most out there get the best like the top opportunities just because they've
Mhm.
really put themselves out there first. So make sure that you're more visible, and I should probably do a better job at that as well. But yeah, that's a great thing learned that I learning from me on my end when I was looking for speakers.
And Nicole, I think a great quote on that same thread is oftentimes visibility always trumps ability, and it's not always about being the
Hmm.
most qualified. But if no one knows who you are, or you're the best
Exactly.
speaker ever, but you've never posted anything about speaking, it's challenging. And I
Exactly.
actually think it's gonna be very meta here, but someone who does a great example of this is actually you. So when I was going to your profile, outside
Oh,
of just influencer marketing at Semrush, which I know, I could see that you also consult. I can see that you do a ton of speaking, podcast speaking, panel session moderator, event activation. So, like, if I was going to source speakers for a Creator Match conference, you'd be the first person that I think of. And I know that you do this because you talk about it, right? Or even, and kind of what you said about the speaking, same thing. I actually saw this from another creator that I kind of emulated where I have a service and it's a bunch of my different media. I did a TED Talk
I
this year. I
love
have
that.
courses, speaking, and I have a bunch of different things. Some are more panel moderating, some are speaking. So if you were sourcing me as a creator to speak, it's easier for you. And like, don't make it guesswork. Make it so obvious that, if you want something, put it out there. And the last thing I'll say is, a lot of brands like Semrush or like yourself are using tools like our extension. And if I was going to source Laura, I know that checked off because she's an influencer. She has influence. She has a big audience, obviously. But I would actually go to her posts and say, okay, well, I want every single video post. So I'm going to say we'll do original, organic, video. And now here are all her video posts. I can see that she can speak. Has she ever said the word speaking? Or has she ever said the words conference, right? Or event, right? Or whatever it is. And you can see so much here that a lot of our users for this Chrome extension are using it to source speakers for conferences. So, creators should think like in terms of keywords and in terms of
Hmm.
make Nicole's life easier. You do not have to be the best. You just have to be the most visible. Nicole shouldn't have to outreach to Laura to say, hey, do you speak? Hey, I know you only do text-based content. Have you ever posted a video versus someone who consistently talks about, hey, I'm speaking, I'm speaking, I'm speaking.
You know what's funny? I actually did use your tool to research a couple of speakers and also like their content when we were talking about topics together, just a couple of keywords and seeing what their thought process is on this specific content to make sure that it aligns with what we're talking about in terms of like bullet points and more full description.
I,
So very, very useful. But I love that you mentioned like think keyword first.
mhm.
And nowadays, in terms of content, always think, I mean, always think keyword first, but not just from that aspect, but if you're trying to build, as exactly what you're saying, if you're trying to build more speaking gigs, maybe talking a little bit more about it so it becomes more visible, even from the keyword aspect, from all spaces, not just on LinkedIn, I think might be very useful.
And I think it's so easy in our heads to be like, oh, of course I do speaking. But if you've never posted
Yeah.
about it, no one will ever know. I spoke to a creator recently and she was like, why didn't I get added to this campaign that we did called the 9 to 5 Quitters Club with a company called
Mm-hmm.
We actually had Olivia Owen, shout out Olivia. She's the head of creator partnerships on the event series a couple weeks ago. And I asked the creator and I said, I didn't even know that. Have you ever posted about it? And then she's like, wait a second. I've actually never posted about it. And I said, well, how
Exactly.
supposed to know versus if you like you should be so vocal about what you want and more things will come
Mm-hmm.
to you. It's not getting more lucky, it's putting yourself in a position to get lucky. And that was actually what my TED
Yeah.
talk was about, was creating your own luck. And if you want the Nicoles of the world to see you, to source you, even a huge thing is the amount of creators that our team at Creator Match reach out to for brand deals and campaigns, and it's crickets. And then they say,
Yeah.
hey, I don't get enough brand deals. I said, I DM'd you. You didn't have an email on file.
I
I
know.
try as much as I can. Like if you really want people to outreach to you, put a contact email or add it to the contact info or check your DMs. What if, Nicole, you have a DM from last year saying, hey, do you want to speak at Spotlight 2024?
It's happened.
That's it.
No, definitely. I agree. It also translates to influencer campaigns for sure.
Amazing. And so we spoke about some tips, tricks, insight on the creator influencer side. The other half of our audience is other brands that kind of want to emulate and follow what Semrush is doing well, as well as agencies who want to partner with brands like the Semrushes of the world. So what advice would you have from all the knowledge that you've done, all the activations from the influencer weekend to Spotlight 2024, now thinking about 2025, if I'm on the brand or agency side, what should I take away from this event? What insight can you share with them?
From Spotlight 2024 or in general?
And in general,
Wow, that's a big one.
start with Spotlight
I
2024 and then we can make it broader.
Yeah, so Spotlight 24, I think events are going to be increasing, definitely, for sure. So maybe building your space or seeing if you're a smaller brand, I guess co-collaborating with a bigger brand that kind of targets your same audience is a great idea. But I definitely see live activations becoming a bigger thing nowadays, especially because yes, we're all stuck at home doing online stuff. So it's nice to do offline stuff too. And I've just seen it as kind of like a trickle effect. So I definitely see it increasing in the next couple of years.
Amazing. So doing something more live, and it's also just different, not very
Activations, yeah, different.
harder to do. It's like
First,
I always also think of video content, especially, I mean, it's crushing right now on LinkedIn, but it's so much harder to do than image
yeah,
or text, which is a better reason to do it because your competitors won't be doing it. And you build a deeper
yeah,
connection. And I agree, live is incredible. We're even thinking about ways that we can, activate in a live sense at different conferences. And like we're not big enough yet to have our own Spotlight 2024, but why not latch on to a conference like a VidCon
exactly,
or a South by Southwest and just activate with different events? So I love it.
exactly.
And before we have time for one more question at the end for Q&A, I want to just pop up here for anyone, because I'm seeing some DMs right now of some people saying, how do I get access to our Creator Match Chrome extension? Feel free to scan this or just type in Creator Match on the Google Chrome store. This is a tool that we were using. Nicole and team uses it. It's helpful for
I love it.
everything. I love to hear. I think you said use it every day, which is
I
so
do.
awesome, so awesome to hear. So I'll leave this here for a second. The last question, and shout out Bree. Bree's been, I think, at every one of our 5 events for Money Mondays. So I'm going to flash Bree's question and we'll end on this final question for today. So she said that, okay, 200,000 followers is great, but any advice for micro influencers or creators that have smaller audiences to get involved in these types of events with the Semrushes and the Nicoles of the world?
So believe it or not, we had some influencers that had 2,000, 3,000K influence followers. Sorry, it doesn't really have to do anything with how big you have a following on LinkedIn. It's just like how impactful you have. I know Brie. I think I'm not sure if you still have your pop culture community. I believe it was on Twitter back in the day, but that's so unique. So actually, like showcasing that, because the way that we curate our lineup, it's making sure that we give the most uniqueness out there, not
Mm,
just the same competition above each other. So I would say it's the same advice. I wouldn't even think that it's something against you. But again, putting yourself out there, being more visible, I think that will be the best advice. And also showing your case more value, I guess. Yeah, pop chat.
amazing.
There
Yeah,
you go.
they should exactly.
So
Amazing.
that's so valuable in all senses.
I love it. Well,
It's unique.
Nicole, I can't believe we're wrapping up the hour now. I mean, I can ask you so many more questions. We might have to add you back on for maybe as you gear up for Spotlight 2025 and thinking about planning for that. But it's probably one of my
Yes.
favorite conversations, and this was
Oh, thank
awesome. We
you. Thank
covered
you.
so much, and just big kudos to you for thinking differently, and for everyone in the audience, creator, brand, agency, marketer, whatever you may be. How can you think differently? You don't have to reinvent the wheel, but pull things from other channels, other audiences, pull things from B2C, bring it into B2B. B2B needs a refresh, a revamp. It needs more life. And Nicole is leading the charge at Semrush. So thank you so much for being here. And hopefully we can meet up in Amsterdam in 2025.
Yeah, whoever wants to apply, actually, we have applications open for anybody that wants to speak. I can actually share the link with AJ and pop it in the LinkedIn so we can spread that for whoever's interested.
Perfect. I'll add it as a comment on the link
Cool.
right after this. Thank you so much again, Nicole. We'll chat with you soon. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, AJ. Bye, everyone.
Bye.